Hi there, you're tuned into Dissecting Dexter. I'm Gareth, and we are back to talk about the latest updates concerning Dexter's first spin off. Actually, can we call it a spin off if it's got Dexter himself in it? Who cares? It's June the 8th, 2024 as we record. The sun is shining, and I'm refreshed after a few days away with the family in Copenhagen. I've got a Belgian beer on the go, which probably isn't the best choice of beverage for a podcast, but I've walked the dog, so she's happy, and I've got our old buddy Travis with me because we've not talked Dexter for a long time, not on the podcast anyway. Hi Travis.
Yo Gareth, what is up?
It's good to talk to you again. It's when was the last time we got together? It would have been the New Blood finale, wouldn't it?
New Blood finale, but we've been in touch. We talk over New Year's. We talk Dexter stuff. You know, we've been in touch.
Yeah. And there's certainly been a few bits and pieces to talk about lately. We've had a lot of news over the last 2 or 3 weeks about Original Sin. Now, we had a podcast a couple of weeks ago when they released news about who's going to play the 3 central characters, the Morgans, Harry, Deb and Dexter himself. Christian Slater, we all know, of course, but the other 2 are unknown, certainly to me. What did you think about this first bit of casting news?
Yeah, no surprise or no surprise opinion. I don't know the other 2, the first 2 people. I look, the Dexter, he's a fellow Brit, such as yourself, is he not?
Yes, indeed. I think he was born in Ireland. Was he born in, I think he was maybe born in England, but was brought up in Ireland, because if you hear him interviewed, he's certainly got a strong Irish accent.
I haven't even gone that far. I haven't even looked up any interviews or seen any of their other stuff. But you Brits, you love to take our jobs. We thought we had a nice thing going in Hollywood, and you guys got to take our stuff. So he's out here. I don't know anything about him, but Christian Slater was the big surprise because he's got name. I'm like, oh, okay. I could see it. At first glance, I don't know. I'm like, man, you don't look a thing like Harry. But I think about him, like, I think he could do it. Like, I don't know. He's got the same vibe. I don't know why. Am I completely wrong? Is Christian Slater short? I picture he's like a short guy.
It's not a piece of information I have to hand.
I imagine, because I'm still thinking about him and Heather's. In my mind, he's still a kid or something. I'm like, he's this short little guy. But again, I don't know.
He's 1.74 meters.
Oh, brother, I don't know what that is.
So what's James? James.
I don't know how tall that is.
He's same height as James Remar.
Oh, okay.
Give or take a centimeter.
Okay.
So I guess they did the research there.
Well, at any rate, that bit of casting, I approve of. In fact, all the casting I approve of so far. I don't have any complaints. But I like Christian Slater. Christian Slater he got famous. He used to be like a little Jack Nicholson, like, hey buddy.
Yeah, he did.
Dexter, you can't be doing that, buddy. I don't know. That's my Christian Slater, or is that my Harry now?
Well, we shall see. But you're certainly right. In his younger days, you did feel he was trying to channel a bit of old Jack in his performances.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but no, you're right. I like you. I'm excited about what Slater's going to bring to the role. I can see it too. I think he'll have the right presence, and the right chops to portray the character. Like you, the other 2, I don't know. They've been in stuff. I think Patrick Gibson's done a little bit more than Molly Brown. But we shall see. Obviously, they've auditioned and must have screen tested well. I did speculate last time out if Michael C. Hall had any kind of input on the casting. I would like to think that he'd had a look at some of the tapes and maybe gave an opinion. That would be nice if he did.
Mm-hmm.
We've had some further updates this week. We do know now that shooting has started on the 5th of June, this last Wednesday. Production is currently in Miami, Florida, I believe for 10 days.
Okay.
We understand that they'll be shooting all sorts of scenes that need to be authentically Miami. Oh, excuse me. There we go. I knew it was a bad idea. And they will be filming stuff to feature throughout the season. So obviously they'll be doing things from all different episodes.
Yeah.
Before they return to Los Angeles to film everything else. From what I can tell on social media, Scott Reynolds is not in Miami. He was there in, which state was it they filmed? Was it New England?
Oh,
for New Blood.
For New Blood? Yeah.
Yeah.
It took place in New York, but I feel like they didn't film in New York. Yeah, somewhere
around
up
there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He was there on set, but I believe he is still in LA. Which is a shame because he was posting quite a lot of on-set stuff, little tidbits and teasers. There's not a lot of that so far, apart from an image of a clapperboard from the first day of shooting.
I'm already going to derail this conversation. Did you see that they're allegedly filming on 35 millimeter?
No.
Did you notice? That's the thing. I couldn't, on the clacker, it says, I don't know why, because no way they're filming on film. But on the clacker, it says 35 millimeter.
Wow.
Do you have it pulled up?
I don't know, but I can.
It has all the, directed by this person, or, it has all the credentials on there. And then it's like camera 35 millimeter.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, that's
I've
what I was
got
like.
The image here.
No way that might got to be a mistake. No, not even Better Call Saul did 35 millimeter. And Vince Gilligan was a big proponent of Breaking Bad being all film and not digital.
Yeah.
And even he got converted.
35 mil.
So yeah.
Wow. I wonder if they'll carry that on with the studio-based stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm very curious. I was like, what?
Yeah.
And similarly, you announced that they were filming in Miami. You said that you found out. Did you find it out from Scott himself, or that it's only for 10 days or something?
Where was it? The Dexter Daily website, dexterdaily.com, is a good source, because I think John there, he's got feelers out in all sorts of directions, Reddit and Instagram. He follows all sorts of accounts and pulls in all sorts of tidbits. So it's a good central repository for news. So I don't know where he got this from. Scott certainly posted the image shared the image of the clapperboard.
Yeah. Well, I was when I first heard the news about Miami, it was presented in a way that it was just like production has begun. So that initial day was people speculating on places like Reddit. They're filming in Miami finally, which of course I would love. That first like 5 or 6 episodes of season 1 were filmed in Miami before they like completely moved to LA. So I was like, Miami. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense that what you said. They're just doing like the pre-production. I almost want to call it like B-roll, Dexter getting in and out of his car, or in this point, like Harry driving down the South Beach or something like that. It'll be shots like that.
Yeah, and for all we know, they could still be shooting externals around Long Beach.
Yeah, a few of them, yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. So, obviously, filming in Miami at all is a departure from about 99% of the original series.
Yeah.
It was just the pilot, wasn't it, that was filmed there. The rest of it was all sort of in and around LA, and as we say, particularly the Long Beach area. I do like that they're filming stuff in Miami. I imagine they'd have loved to do this in the original series, but maybe never had the budget to get a unit out there. Maybe it all ended up going on Hull's salary. Ooh, controversial. But I like that we're going to get genuine Miami locations for a good chunk of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we mentioned the clapperboard. That clapperboard also has a 101 taped in the top right-hand corner, which could be Original Sin, Season 1, Episode 1. Mm-hmm. And we see the director as Michael Lehman. Now, I first heard his name from the film Heathers, which of course starred our new Harry
Oh,
Morgan. Lehman also has directed Hudson Hawk, episodes of American Horror Story, plenty of True Blood, 2 episodes of Dexter, loads of stuff. What hasn't he directed? And he did an episode of Jessica Jones, which was a show Scott Reynolds wrote for. So quite a few
man
Dexter
works
connections.
hard.
Yeah, yeah. We've also had further casting news coming out this week, which naturally I would like to get your opinion on as well. James Martinez has been cast as a young Batista. Now, I'm not familiar with him. Looking at IMDb, he's clearly quite an experienced working actor. He's got a lot on his resume, but seems to be waiting for that big high-profile breakout role. Maybe this
Yeah.
will be it. But I think he's got a good look for a young Batista.
Yeah. I only know 2 things about him. I've seen his headshot that got printed along with all this stuff, right? He's a very handsome man. He's got that stubble. Oh, dude, young Batista is gonna be a ladies' killer. No wonder. Remember his season 1 storyline is that he stepped out on his wife. Batista did. And you
Yeah.
could see it like, oh, the ladies love Batista. But
Well, who wouldn't, especially in
yeah.
that pork pie hat?
Oh my God, do you think he's gonna imitate David Zayas' speech? Do you, like his,
Oh, yeah.
his wobbly, no offense
Yeah,
to Mr.
the
Zayas.
R's. Yeah,
Yeah.
bless him. Uh,
Do you think he's?
maybe.
Yeah, I wonder like at what point is it like, oh, we don't need to, everyone know like was it everyone just ignored that part of Batista's character? What I mean to say is like sometimes Hollywood we're getting more and more away from like prosthetic noses or giving actors tans, right? People are more sensitive about that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, we don't want to. We can't do that. It's like, yeah, does that go down to like the involuntary speech patterns that David Zayas has? That's an affliction the man has.
Yeah, that's just how he speaks.
So I'm curious. Ooh, I wonder if he's going to bother to do that.
We will find out in a few months' time.
Yeah.
Elsewhere, we've got LaGuerta, the role going to Christina Milian. Now, this is a name that I do know, and
Yes.
I did not expect to hear her name when they announced the casting. She's always been a pop star to me, although I was aware she'd done some acting. I've not knowingly seen her in anything, but I think she's got a good look for a young Maria. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, it's almost up there with the Christian Slater as far as a little like name recognition legitimacy. Like, oh, I know her already. Yeah, Christina Milian did. You're right. She was a pop star. She did the Kim Possible theme song. Do you remember Kim Possible? Were you just a little bit beyond that? When
it doesn't ring a bell.
Out?
No,
I don't know. It's a Disney Channel cartoon show about a teenage spy, and she did the theme song for that. But she was in the movie Love Don't Cost a Thing with Nick Cannon, where Nick Cannon plays the nerdy high schooler who hires Christina Milian to be his girlfriend. But you know how movies go. It's just supposed to be a fake boyfriend-girlfriend thing, but real feelings develop. So I recognized her too. And she was like in the Cheetah Girls or something.
Okay.
But she's got a good look. Again, I was like, oh, dude, she does kind of look like young LaGuerta. Yeah. Little LaGuerta.
Yeah, I think so. We'll see if she's got the chops for the role itself. Masuka is going to be played by a young man called Alex Shimizu. Don't know how you pronounce that. Apologies if I'm butchering the name. Another actor I'm not familiar with, though, looking on IMDb, he's done a few bits, most notably several episodes of the horror anthology series The Terror, but it's not a show I've seen. Should do, really. I'm well into horror these days, but there's just so much to see. But looking at a couple of short videos on his IMDb page, I think if they shave his head, I think he's got a good look for a young C.S. Lee. What do you think?
Yeah, this is another one that I don't have any background on. Yeah, he could do it. I know immediately, like I've got some things pulled up. The eyebrows are like identical. I'm on Entertainment Weekly and they've got side by side, and I'm like, oh man, they have the same eyebrows. Maybe that's all we need. They're gonna have to shave his head. That's like, Masuka's thing. I guess they don't have to. They don't have to do anything, but I imagine they would. And I know it's been on your mind about Masuka's, jokes.
Yeah.
So I was wondering how far they're going to go there.
Well, that's an interesting one. Obviously, I talked about it a little bit on the last podcast. It's interesting because we know OG Masuka was all about the inappropriate, and his colleagues would just roll their eyes. When we meet him in Original Sin, it's going to be earlier still, when standards were maybe, well, in the real world, the standards back then were probably even worse, and people overlooked inappropriate humor and remarks even more than they did in the 2000s. So, but having said that, this show is of course being produced in 2024, when real world standards are a lot more aware of the inappropriateness of that kind of humor and that sort of behavior. But they're writing for characters in the 90s.
Yeah.
So they've got a dilemma there. Are they going to be able to write in such a way that he's still cheeky, but not overtly sexist or sexual? Sorry, go on.
They got a tightrope to walk.
Yeah.
And I in the original, or in what they like broadcast or put out about the thing, didn't they say something along the lines of like, oh, he loves to boss around his new intern Dexter or something? I don't know. I'm only reading into this as like, all right, if he's got a little mean streak, or if he likes to boss Dexter around, yeah, maybe he still is going to be making these comments, right? He's drunk on a power trip or something. I don't know. He'll say whatever he wants. Now, if they stick with the original canon of the show completely, and I understand that they may not, I'm not going to get all nerded out about that. Deb won't be around. He shouldn't be able to be hitting on Deb because she is younger than Dexter. And if he's just out of college, she will at least be in college still. But yes. I don't know, man. I know nowadays any comment he makes, even if it's not about a woman in the office, he could be talking about some celebrity. And, it could be a little uncomfortable if your buddy at work starts talking about some chick's tits or something. You're like, oh,
yeah.
So I don't know, but so he could still do it. But I guess I'm that's one of the things I'm keeping my eye on more than other things. Like, how are they going to do Masuka?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do there, without detracting from the character. Because if they strip away his inappropriateness completely, then it won't be the same character.
Yeah.
And then people will complain. But at the time, Masuka was a much loved character. He provided a lot of the comic relief, didn't he?
Yeah.
So I'm sure they won't strip away his humor completely, but we'll see if they tone down the sort of sexual elements. You touched on Deborah there and make a good point. She's going to be at an age where she is still in college, and or that sort of age. We know Dexter's going to be, I think, is he 20 or 21?
I believe he should be 21, right? Because if this is 1991, right?
Yep.
I think he's 21.
Yeah.
Well, the original show, if you allow me to do nerd out for a second, the original show messed with Dexter's age already, because they set up that he was born in 1970 or something. I remember when he had his high school reunion in season 6, the age worked out in a way that he would have been like 16 when he graduated high school. Oh no, he would have been 20 or something. It was something here I'm trying to nerd out and I'm getting all my numbers wrong. He was too old. That was the thing. They moved his high school reunion date up to where it was like, wait, he was 20 when he graduated high school? That doesn't make any sense. So with this show, we are sure it's 1991, right? Did they say that?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, maybe that. I guess that could still be subject to change up until it airs.
Yeah.
But for now, yeah.
I mean, it really doesn't even matter. 1991 to 1992. All we need to know is early 90s. It doesn't. we're not going to get too caught up in that. But yeah, I mean, that would make
Yeah.
sense. If he was born in 1970, by 1991, he'd be 21. That's about the age you would graduate college if you worked really hard and, didn't fuck around.
Yeah. So Dexter's an intern. So I guess he's still officially at college and
That's
taking
true.
time out during the semester to spend periods as an
That's
intern
true.
in Miami Metro.
Because if he also had some sort of medical school training, right, that Dokes had mentioned, you were top of your class in medical school.
Yeah.
I guess he would still be 21 would be too early to complete all that.
You'd think so. Yeah. Which would put Deb still very much in her teens.
Yeah.
And when we were talking just before we started recording today, you brought up a point that I think I'd mentioned on the previous podcast, a concern about what they do with Deb in this show. Obviously, there's plenty they can delve into about potential jealousy of Harry spending too much time with Dexter when Deb is Harry's actual daughter and not adopted. There's stuff they can go into there, but if she's still at high school, you and I know from experience on other shows that storylines about high school kids can sometimes get too bogged down in teen angst.
From other shows, you mean from this show, from Dexter New Blood? Boy, do I know high school storylines.
Memory. Yeah,
high school storylines can suck.
Yeah, they can until someone goes postal.
Yeah,
Harrison. Well, hopefully that won't happen because that's a bit too. And it was at the time, wasn't it, when that happened? Didn't it coincide with something bad happening in real life?
Oh, dude,
when that episode aired, I think there was some bad.
Dude, this is gonna sound so like political, jaded American, but it's like I don't even remember. You're right, but this horrible shit happens so much.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. It was something like there was like an attempted school shooting or something, or it was like it got caught early, but it was still like, oh, this looks bad, because that was like the same week that that Harrison did his little stunt in New Blood involving the school shooter.
Yeah,
that he set up.
Yeah, do you know? I think that was maybe the episode that you joined me for to talk about together, and I think you told me about what happened just as we were about to record.
You're totally.
And he said, Gareth, I don't know if you saw the news, but something's just happened. Oh shit!
Yeah.
Now we've got to do a podcast.
Here, I was gonna let you look like the good guy, like, yeah, man, I know all this stuff. No, but you're right. I did tell you about that.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
But yeah, so we're going down rabbit holes, aren't we? But no, the point about Deb is obviously there are concerns there that are they going to get bogged down in keeping her busy with, because they always have B stories, don't they, to keep some of the other characters busy. They have cast someone, or they were looking to cast someone as her best friend, which is fair enough. Why wouldn't she have a buddy? But I hope we don't see her, fawning over guys at school and all that kind of stuff. Although, I don't know, maybe it would help inform her character, the character that we saw in the original series, if we see some of her experiences at that age. Who knows? But there's definite pitfalls, potential for pitfalls there.
Yeah, they've got an uphill battle as far as like, if they stick with the established canon, she's going to be in school, like you said. How interesting can that be? If you remember in season 2 of the original show, when they showed how leading up to when Harry did kill himself, excuse me, Deb's got her big old grandpa glasses on and her hair down to her butt. She looked very nerdy. She looked very young and nerdy. And so, yeah, it's like, how interesting can they make that storyline? Are they going to go the route to get her in the mix? Is there going to be Dexter's got to solve some murder at his university or something, or, anything to get her in the mix? You mentioned that they were casting her friend, and I'm reminded of like the problem that a lot of people have with prequels is, it's like, it's hard to get involved with characters, that aren't going to be in the original thing. Right.
Yeah.
Because for all we know, from on the surface, Deb in the original Dexter has got no life, right? We never see her talk to anybody that's not at work, So you imagine this friend of hers either is just gonna they're just gonna slowly drift apart, or it's a drama show that sounds like drama. If her friend gets killed at some point, and that really shaped early Deb. Her friend got killed, and she learned not to trust people or whatever. They're gonna make up some origin story. What if she doesn't swear? They're gonna make up, Deb has never said a swear word in her life until her friend died. They gotta do the origin story of everything.
Yeah, it could be a big cliffhanger, like in The Simpsons, Maggie's first word. What a big deal that was.
Oh yeah, gonna be advertising it.
Yeah,
Deb's first fuck.
Yeah, vocabulary speaking.
Yeah, of course.
Or who knows where it could go. But just very quickly, going back to just a point you touched on in what you were saying there about that Dexter gets involved maybe in the solving of a murder at either his university or possibly Deb's high school.
Yeah.
And I was going to get to this in our conversation. Our good friend Nick Henderson wrote an article on DexterDaily.com putting forth the case for why we should be excited about Original Sin, acknowledging that there are a lot of naysayers out there, people who've been stung twice, first by season 8 and then the finale of New Blood, and that there are a lot of people who are just off Dexter because they've been, once bitten, twice shy kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And also the concerns about the new show retreading old ground, that we've seen a lot of Dexter's key moments from his past.
Yeah.
And I guess we can segue into that, and I hope Nick doesn't mind. Obviously, I'm crediting Nick here for these points. I'm sure Nick won't mind us referring to his article. You can see the full article on DexterDaily.com. But one of the points he brings up is something that you've just touched on, is potential for a big bad for this season. We've always had a big bad. And we know nothing at this point about who the villain will be. And it is possible that it could be a serial killer at Dexter's university, or college. It could be a serial killer at Deb's high school. And that, it remains to be seen what the thrust of the season will be in terms of the investigation, because there's got to be a core investigation, isn't there? A core case that drives everyone. And we do know that Dexter will be very green, very much a novice killer at that point, very inexperienced at tracking people. And he could make mistakes in abundance. And Nick makes the point that going up against a big bad, Dexter could be out of his depth and actually be a step behind most of the time, which I think will be a very fresh dynamic and something very interesting for Original Sin to explore. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that I'll say this, and I'll probably say this many times still, but it's like I'm giving them so much leeway in terms of like not sticking to the original canon of the show. I get the feeling in my head canon, I suppose, in the show as presented, when Dexter first meets Rudy, that's supposed to be the first time anything like that's happened. I think in the original show, when not only just somebody knowing who he was, which happened numerous times throughout the show, but I think that's the first time Dexter had some sort of long fight, quote unquote, with like another killer in the original show. I think everything up until then was supposed to be real easy for him. So that being said, I understand we got to make a new show. We have to make a show. There has to be drama. And that is kind of the formula of the show, is there is a procedural element to it. So I'm totally fine if they fudge with that kind of stuff and go like, oh, okay, no, actually Dexter did almost get caught when he was 20 and then had to kill a guy. Dexter already had a Miguel, an early proto Miguel in the early show, something like that. I think I'm okay with them doing something like that. In those Dexter early cuts that I referenced, which at the time I think they were presented as canon because they were written by the writers. I think Scott Reynolds wrote. There was like 3 different seasons of that early cut. Scott Reynolds wrote the last one, and those were kind of presented as canon. But I bet you I'd love to quiz Scott Reynolds, see if he even remembers anything about those, because there are these little animated comics online that ran about like 2 minutes per episode.
Yeah, well, maybe an opportunity will present itself over the coming months to talk to Scott again.
Put him in the hot seat. Well, I was just going to say that in those animated comics, he's already had, like, one of them took place during this time of Dexter being in college, or and Deb was still young enough that she couldn't stay home by herself or something. Dexter's like, oh, I sent her over to Gene and Camilla's house while I'm going out to do my killing, or so they've already kind of played with that timeline in terms of Dexter doing things like that, having rivals and almost getting caught and getting involved in things that he shouldn't be getting involved in.
Yeah, and I think you're right. We will need to give the writers, allow them a little bit of leeway, because if Dexter does find himself on the back foot and at risk of being caught by another killer and being out of his depth, there'll be some who say, oh, well, they never referred to that in the original series, and Dexter never said, oh, I've been out of my depth before, I'm not going to let it happen again, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But obviously in 2006, they never knew that in nearly 20 years' time they'll be writing a series of an origin story. So yeah, I think we'll need to cut them a little bit of slack and a bit of artistic license.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is to even think about Harry in this show is still around, at least in the beginning. I predict if this show is going to go on for more than one season, Harry will die. Maybe they could even have Harry, do the suicide thing at some point and still keep Harry around as a ghost. When they could do the ghost Harry thing in this show if they wanted. But whatever, Harry's still around. I mean, imagine Harry could get more involved in some sort of big bad than just Dexter, That's interesting to me.
Yeah.
We know that I think one thing they can't mess with in the canon of the show is when Harry sees Dexter killing somebody, that makes, Harry disgusted in himself or whatever, right?
That's huge for both characters.
You can't have Harry literally be in the kill room with Dexter ever, but I suppose you could have Harry help Dexter in, a few ways, get a few kills in the show, right?
Yeah. Yeah, in some way, maybe feed him some information.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, also going against canon, I get the vibe that, like, we only ever saw young Dexter kill. He killed the nurse, if you recall, that was like trying to kill Harry. That was like his first kill. And then he killed that guy, Juan Reinez, who's the one that Harry caught him doing. I got the vibe again. I think the impression was that might have even been Dexter's second kill, or if at the very least that was like he's only had a few kills under his belt by that point. Again, I'm going to give the show leeway to fudge with those numbers. Be like, nah, Dexter killed about 4 or 5 people a season before then. I could imagine they're gonna kind of inflate Dexter's kill count for the sake of the show. But I could be wrong. Maybe they really will stretch out that drama, and they could focus a lot on the side characters. Harry could have his own interesting story.
I hope he does.
We didn't talk about Harry's partner. The casting news on his.
Oh, partner. We didn't. No, we jumped, didn't we? Yeah. Did. So Reno Wilson is playing a character called Bobby Watt.
Yeah.
Harry's longtime partner and confidant. And finally, someone I've watched in something. Hooray!
Oh, see, I don't. Would you watch Mike and Molly?
No, but that is another of his high-profile shows, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, he was a series regular in Good Girls, and that was a show that was a bit like a female Breaking Bad.
That's with Christina Hendricks.
Yeah, he was good in that. But he's also had a recurring role in the recent Fatal Attraction show. But he's got a career going way back to the Cosby Show in the late 80s. He's a very experienced actor.
That old? I mean, I guess that makes sense if he's supposed to be a partner to Harry.
Yeah, he could be the senior of the two. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he does. Hopefully he's not there just to die and be a plot device to propel Harry.
Well, I'll only speak for myself, But when I first saw the cast news, I immediately thought it was going to be Dokes, right? 'Cause at the top of the article, it's like, Original Sin prequel series casts, young versions of original cast members, right?
Yeah.
And it has all 4 of them lined up, and he was at the end. I was like, oh, that's young Dokes. But then I read up on it, and it's not, of course. And the timing for Dokes, I guess, sticking to the original canon, I wonder if people are sick of me saying that, Dokes wouldn't even be at the department for years, right? Because he's supposed to be in Haiti doing his Black Ops kind of army work, right? So I don't. Did you did watch Better Call Saul?
Yes.
You remember they waited like 3 seasons before they brought Gus in, because they knew that's what kind of fans wanted, but they let the show kind of breathe on its own without bringing in Gus.
It was good call as well.
They're going to do that with Dokes if this show goes on for more than 1 season. I know they've announced it as a 10-episode series, I think is the word that they used, but that means nothing. If it goes on, they're going to do that too. They're going to have surprise motherfucker. That's going to be his first words, but he'll say it in like a jovial way. Like, he's going to come in, surprise motherfucker. And they're all gonna be excited. Oh, Dokes, I haven't seen you since whatever, it'll be he'll say it, but it'll be something different.
It'll be, oh, we've got a new guy starting. Oh, I hope he's not an asshole or something. And that'll be his opening line when he walks in. That would be awesome.
Yeah, he's gonna be got a afro. Remember we saw that in the original show they had Dokes with the afro. Yeah, it'll be him. He'll come with an afro and a turtleneck. Yo, surprise, motherfucker!
Oh, yeah.
We'll do it in finger guns, and he's got a champagne bottle. Well, we love this guy. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think everybody loves Dokes, don't they?
Yeah.
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 So going back to Nick's article, I made some notes on his key points that he was raising. Phil, I'll just go through them. Feel free to jump in if anything springs to mind. So he points out the original series only covered the broad strokes of Dexter's youth. As I say, the one of the concerns or the major concerns that people have about Original Sin is that it's going to just be a rehash of things we've seen before. But Nick points out that these are just isolated moments. We've not seen the build-up or what happened next. We saw his first human kill. We saw Harry's reaction to seeing Dexter kill, but what happened after that? How did Harry's reaction affect Dexter? There's fertile ground there that they can explore. The new show is set, as we've said, in 1991. This brings with it potential for a very different vibe, different music, different fashion, whole different look for the show. This is pre-internet, which is key, I think.
Pre-cell phone, yeah.
Yeah, we saw Dexter researching online a lot. For the police, this brings with it less developed forensics techniques. This might provide some big obstacles for Dexter researching potential victims. I think that has a lot of...
Oh, I'm sorry. Or it could be a lot of help. I imagine it was a lot easier to get away with murders before all these forensic techniques were invented, right?
Yeah.
Dexter can afford to be a lot sloppier. Like, well, whatever,
Yeah.
They ain't gonna catch me.
Yeah. And this is early 90s Miami, so indeed there are great opportunities for a fresh vibe. Nick points out how refreshing the tone was in New Blood. The new location gave it a really original atmosphere, and maybe 1991 Miami will do the same. The point about the big bad we've covered. Nick suggests that given the time period, they could bring back Dr. Vogel. Now, this character had so much potential in season 8. And obviously we know how that panned out, but Nick suggests that Original Sin is an opportunity to bring her back. Now, I can't imagine Original Sin won't focus on the development of the code, and we know from season 8 that Vogel helped Harry with this, so perhaps we will see her and see just how much influence she had. Had you considered this?
To be honest, I hadn't. Now I know Clyde Phillips is running the show.
Yes. And
I know Clyde Phillips, I guess, was respectful to the original show in a way, in terms of like he didn't rewrite the ending of season 8 when he did New Blood, but Vogel wasn't his baby. That's not how I believe he envisioned what how it went down with Harry, I'm gonna put my dollar on betting that we will not see Vogel will act as if it was Harry by himself, as Clyde intended, or should I say, as Jeff Lindsay intended.
Yeah, yeah.
But in someone who actually just in the last half year, I rewatched all of Dexter, including season 8.
Wow.
Hey, wow! Like, I'm sorry.
How many rewatches is that now?
Well, to be honest, without getting into the thick of it, I used to rewatch the whole series every year up until, before season 7 came out, I got to watch the first 6 seasons. Before season 8 comes out, I got to watch the first 7 seasons. I used to do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I had never rewatched season 8. I had never done a rewatch that included season 8. And so, when that ended, 2013? It's been a little over 10 years now.
Yeah.
So this was my second time watching season 8. And the Vogel stuff, it's in the show, it's presented like it's only young Dexter. It's only like when he's that 8-year-old that's killing the neighbor's dog, It's not like she's there behind the scenes all throughout his high school years. That's the way it's shown in the original series. Of course, they could do whatever they want here. I don't think that they'll show Vogel, and if they did, I don't know what they would do. Because Dexter can't meet her. Dexter's not supposed to know. I don't know.
Did he not? They did meet when he was young, didn't they?
No,
he
it
had
was
sessions with her.
No,
was Harry consulting her?
Harry had sessions with her, and that's what she recorded.
Yeah,
and
she had
I wouldn't
pictures,
have been able to
didn't
answer
she?
this.
She had pictures that he drew.
Yes, because Harry brought hthem. She was
Right,
secretly recording their sessions. I don't mean to sound like a know-it-all, but I would only know this if I didn't rewatch season 8, in the last 3 months or 4 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was like Harry's psychiatrist, and he would bring her stuff, and I don't believe she ever met him. And she turned her own son into like a Dexter 2, if you recall.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
Very much so. I suppose they could bring her back in the capacity as Harry's therapist, couldn't
Sure,
they?
absolutely, they could do
there's
that.
potential there, but
cast young Charlotte Rampling.
Yeah. Talking about it with you now, that I think there is a case for her not appearing, and as you say, she wasn't one of Clyde's characters during his era. So again, and we'll say this a lot, we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going back to Nick's article, he makes the point that season 1 Dexter, when we first meet him, he's pure psychopath, only held in check by the code. He loves the hunt, he loves the kill. A younger Dexter, when we meet him in Original Sin, could be far more primal than that, at a time when he wasn't considering whether he could strive to be more human, more normal. I still hate that word, normal. But Nick makes a fantastic point, saying that part of Dexter died when he chose Deborah over Brian in the season 1 finale. That was the point when he began to realize he could be something more. So I wonder if the character of Dexter in Original Sin will be far more primal and not entertaining the notion that he could ever be normal. And I use that word in inverted commas again. So he might not be exploring or open to exploring his humanity, as he puts it.
I have this thought about the rest of the cast. I'm about to talk about a show I've never seen. Young Sheldon?
Yes.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I'm not a Big Bang Theory guy at all. But from what I understand, people fucking love Young Sheldon. So there are people who say it surpasses the original show, and it has just recently gotten canceled. And I bring it up in case viewers don't know, because Young Sheldon is about the young adventures of Jim Parsons' character on The Big Bang Theory. So it's comparable to this show. It's like a prequel to the original show. And in that show, they have a similar problem where Sheldon couldn't evolve in the way that you saw him evolve in the original show, because he's supposed to be this boy genius, socially awkward, right? So that young Sheldon had to be very static, but the rest of the cast around him, that's what they had to make the show interesting. And I'm wondering if maybe they could do stuff about this. Everyone's talking about what are they gonna do with Dexter and Deb, but maybe young Batista will have something interesting going on. Young LaGuerta will, right? We know LaGuerta used to have a thing with Dokes, but we've talked about Dokes shouldn't be in the show yet. But her and Dokes used to date. Maybe they'll really lean on the rest of their cast to do interesting character growth, because Dexter, by all rights, should almost kind of be boring to watch. Yeah, he doesn't even have a Rita around. I wonder if they'll give Dexter another girlfriend, right? In the original show, Rita was only they say it in the first episode, he's only been dating Rita for 6 months at that point. And Deb introduced the two of them because Deb was like a police officer at one of Rita's when Rita was getting beat up by Paul,
Yes.
So I'm like, Rita probably won't be around unless they do time jump stuff. To make Dexter interesting, they got to give him something, right? Unless they do, maybe it would be interesting. Make him a killing machine. Make him the Terminator or something. Maybe that would be interesting to watch him just do what he does like a robot, and everyone else, they get the fun, interesting stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we could see him just being incredibly clumsy. I mean, he was clumsy anyway, socially, wasn't he? He would put his foot in it and, telling Asta and Cody that their mother had died while wearing a pair of Mickey Mouse ears, that kind of thing. So maybe we'll see Dexter where he's just maybe not even trying to fit in, and still very much developing the mask that we saw him wearing in those early seasons, where he was as he saw it, just faking it, being the guy who brings the donuts. Mm-hmm. Whether they'll give him a girlfriend, I don't know. And I imagine he'd be like a bull in a china shop with when it comes to finesse with the opposite sex.
Yeah. I'm trying to give the writers everything they can. Like, man, I know you guys got 10 episodes to fill.
Yep.
You got to do something. So I'm giving them all kinds of things. Like, fuck it, give him. Maybe not even, I guess he doesn't need a girlfriend, but he could have a love interest that would ultimately fizzle out. Someone that's interested in him, I mean.
Or maybe a girl. Yeah. I was just going to say a girl that likes him and he just doesn't pick up on the signals. And maybe it takes Deb to say, come on, Dex.
Yeah, come on, Dex. Lauren really likes you.
Yeah. Open your eyes.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah. Okay, so, kudos there to Nick for a really good article. Definitely go over and check that out, guys, at dexterdaily.com. Just before we came on the call today, Travis, there was a little bit more news. Again, credit to Dexter Daily for picking this up. John there apparently got an email from someone through Instagram and it was an email for a casting call. They're looking for extras, background actors in Miami, apparently for scenes to be set in the 1970s. Now, we were talking about Dexter being born very early in that decade, 70 or 71. So this does appear to be a clear indication that we're going to be getting flashbacks from Dexter's very early years, something we did see a little of in the original series. Now, we did hear some time ago when we first had the casting call that went out that they were looking to cast Laura Moser. So will we see flashbacks of Dexter's life pre-shipping container, baby Dexter with his mum maybe, or post-chainsaw with preschool Dexter being brought up by the Morgans? I don't know. The casting of Laura was really interesting to me. Do you think there's any chance that younger Dexter will have visions of his mother like older Dexter did of Harry? Will we get Ghost Laura?
Ay caramba. You know what? I guess what they could do is Harry is the one who's haunted by what happened to Laura. Maybe Harry's the one who's getting visions. Because Dexter, remember, shouldn't remember his mother until Brian paints the hotel room with the blood on the walls, if you recall.
Yes.
That's when Dexter even first remember. He's like, oh, it's some baby. He doesn't even know the baby's supposed to be him, the one that he's having this vision of. But yeah, you're right. I didn't even think about that. They could flashbacks. That could be. Hey, that's drama right there. Leading up to Laura's death. String that out throughout a few episodes in the season. Whatever case got Dexter's mother killed and how complicit Harry was in the whole thing. Oh, I could have protected her, but I was lying to my wife and I couldn't do this thing or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually really interesting. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they're putting out a casting call doesn't mean she's going to be featuring very much, does it? Just that they're looking for someone to play her, and for all we know, it could just be one flashback, couldn't it?
Yeah.
It remains to be seen how much she will feature. Okay, so that brings us pretty much up to date with the news. I don't know if there were any other points you wanted to bring up, Travis. Were there?
Yeah. I mean, nothing too big, but we know Dexter should be killing. Well, let me say this. My idea for the trajectory of the show would be at some point Harry will kill himself, and the show will continue on with Ghost Harry visions. And I say that because we know Dexter needs to be killing a bunch of fools, because in season 2, when Dokes is suspected as the Bay Harbor Butcher, they find a bunch of bodies in the water, right?
Yes.
And LaGuerta uses Dokes's black operations missions as reasons why he can't be, like, these bodies are from, these many years ago when Dokes was in Haiti, if you recall.
Yes. So
Dexter's got to have enough bodies to have some of them be mixed in that giant pile at the bottom of the ocean, right? So I don't even remember what my point is for that, other than Dexter's got to be killing a lot. We got it. The casting. I think the only other person. Oh no, Young Matthews. I was trying to think who they're going to cast as Young Matthews and who they're going to cast as young Camilla. You remember them?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's funny you mentioned Camilla. I just saw Margot Martindale today in a film. I watched Cocaine Bear earlier.
Oh, how funny. I've seen that too. Yeah.
And she pops up in that.
Very
she's awesome.
Unlike Camilla. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's a potty mouth in this one. But yeah, we've not got the full cast fleshed out, or certainly not publicly. It'll be interesting to see who they cast as Camilla, and we know that she was good friends with Harry's wife, right? That's how he got to know her.
Well,
were they good friends, or did he know her as a colleague?
She worked at the station, yeah, but I think it was because Camilla always had her husband Gene, and in the show you never saw Gene, but it was like, oh, me and my husband Gene and Harry and his wife we'd get together and play Pinochle, and they had some card game they'd play together, and you never saw Gene, and then Gene died off screen. I know that rhymed, but he did.
Yes.
I couldn't leave Well Enough alone. I had to look it up. In season 6, which aired in 2011, it was Dexter's 20th high school reunion, which means in season 6 Dexter graduated in 91.
Oh, right, yeah.
If this show takes place in 91, where he's in college at least, point is the timeline's done that up. All I'm saying, this show's always played fast and loose with Dexter's age, or when he started killing or anything like that. If he graduated high school when he was 21 years old, that'd be ridiculous. There's special schools for adults who need to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I wonder if that was a slip up at the time.
It totally was. And I know 2011 Travis was all over it. Oh, these fucking idiots. They don't know what they're doing. Yeah.
There's probably a podcast where you emailed in and
I don't even want to think about it. I would cringe.
I was going week to week then for season 6. It was season 5 where I started going week to week in the aftermath of Rita.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll leave that. We'll leave that in the past. I don't want to hear anything about that. But just know, we're gonna. Well, then again, season 6 was also a not Clyde season.
Yes,
they could retcon that. Be like, oh no, that was Dexter's 24th high school reunion, or something. Yeah, they do things their own way in Miami. They don't wait for the 5s. They did a 24-year reunion. But I think that's it as far as the points I've got, or the points. Yeah, we already talked about 35 millimeter film, and I am looking forward to it. Like Nick said, there is the thought, like, well, haven't they kind of shown everything? Season 1 was so flashback heavy, but to their credit, most of the flashbacks, focused on Dexter even younger than what we're seeing now. We only got a few flashbacks of Michael C. Hall in that wig. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yes, the wig.
Yeah, I think that the Dexter we're seeing now is in place of the Michael C. Hall with the wig. They're not showing us anything where, you know, Dexter's still in high school going to prom or you know, shooting guns with his dad while Deb has to stay home, you know.
Yeah. Well, they're big shoes to fill, and time will tell whether Patrick Gibson is up to it. But I'm excited for this. I'm looking forward to it, and it's fun talking about new Dexter again, and thinking about it and speculating. You know, it gets the cogs whirring, doesn't it? And the juices flowing, and yeah, there's a long way to go between now and when it airs, and we were talking about this before we recorded, speculating about when it might come on, and they've not announced how long the shooting schedule is. I guess it could be, I don't know, it could be a few months quite comfortably. So maybe we'll see this spring 2025.
I think that's a safe bet. Spring, summer at the latest. They're not going to sit on it. I mean, they could. I'm halfway talking out my butt. I'm in Southern California. I'm vaguely aware of shooting stuff that goes on around me at all times. I feel like they could definitely film the whole season over summer. They could be done by September. You know, it's only 10 episodes. And I know there's post-production and stuff like that, but yeah, they're not going to sit on it for that long. I'm thinking spring is right, dude. By this time next year, we will be in the midst of Dexter Original Sin.
Yeah. It'll be good. There'll be plenty of Dexter for us to all dissect together. It'll be good to get the old gang back together, and listeners old and new, and that's what I love about doing this is breaking stuff down with you guys. And well, we've got, as I say, there's plenty of time between now and then. They'll be drip feeding us tidbits as we go along. So I'm sure we'll get together again before it airs, and I'll try and keep the podcast feed up to date as things come out. I'll do a podcast from time to time and provide updates and reaction to the news. But for now, thanks very much, Travis, for coming on today and getting together again and talking Dexter. It's like we've never been away. It's great how you just slip back into Dexter mode as the Dexter encyclopedia that I know you are.
Well, thank you. I'm glad
I appreciate it.
I'm glad my obsessiveness over those early years of Dexter is coming in handy somewhere, because Lord knows I never have an opportunity to talk Dexter with anybody. Most people haven't even seen the show now. You know, you talk to people now like, oh, I've never seen that. Oh, I heard that show sucks. I didn't watch it. Like, oh, damn it.
Yeah. I mean, you hear people saying that about other shows like Lost, don't you? Oh,
like
I
Lost,
heard the ending sucked.
Yeah, I heard the ending sucked. Yeah, okay, but let's not get Lost spoilers. But yeah, people think something that didn't happen in the ending of Lost happened, and it didn't happen. They got it wrong.
All right, so thanks again, Travis, and for those of you listening, thank you very much for joining us. If you want to get in touch, you can. It's dissectingdexter@gmail.com. There's the Facebook page, facebook.com/dissectingdexter. This podcast is very much a labour of love, but as I've started doing each podcast, is that it does. There are costs incurred in keeping the lights on here and hosting the podcast somewhere professional and reliable. So if you want to show some additional support for the show, you can and become a Patreon. Patreon.com/dissectingdexter, where for as little as £1 a month, you can, as I say, help us just keep the podcast live, keep the lights on, and ensure that the podcast keeps going. And I thank all of my lovely patrons for doing that. But for now, that's it. Thank you for listening, and we'll get together again very soon and dissect some more Dexter. Until then, take care, guys. Bye for now.